Can you give us the general overview of the recent appreciation of the dollar?
Well, the overview is very simple. The rally that we have experienced in the FX market now for the naira against the dollar is as a result of the fact that the federal government decided to, take, the appropriate measure towards, injecting liquidity into the market. And what they did was to clear some backlog of FX, forward with about 31 banks. And ever since that, activity has started, we have been experiencing, adequate liquidity into the market, and that has helped the naira to rally a lot. And also because the FX market is information sensitive, a lot of information that government is now churning out in terms of the readiness to reform, and the readiness to come up with a lot of strategies towards stabilizing the value of naira. Those information has equally assisted, in helping the naira to rally.
So information plays a major role.
Yes, in financial markets.
In
financial markets. And in fact, in everything that has to do with business. Because whatever information that comes into the market definitely will stimulate reaction. If it is good news will engender positive movement in the market. If it is other side, you will see the same thing. You understand? So market is information driven. The quantum of information available to players in the market plays a lot of role in determining what they are going to do in terms of their position in the market. Is either you want to edge yourself against future adverse movement, so you quickly take your position. And if you're already in the money, maybe you think I've made enough information and there enough return, and there is an information that market is going to move in another direction, you quickly exit. So those are the things. It's a thing of forces of demand and supply that is driven by the quantum of information that is available in the market.
So as we speak, at least I particularly witnessed yesterday where a friend who is a POS operator said if you go into the banks, there's a limited amount of money you can withdraw. Some banks will tell you if you want to withdraw 50,000, they'll say you cannot get more than 20,000 or 25,000. And I know that especially in the last few months, about 2 or 3 months ago, we started hearing things like scarcity of the naira outside Lagos, and of course gradually creeping into Lagos. Is this a case of hoarding, or is this a case of against speculations, like it will always be said in the banking industry?
It is a combination of the two.
Okay.
There is that, aspect of speculation, because a lot of people still haven't come to terms with the fact that the CBN have come out to say that the old legal note still remains a valid legal tender.
If no date anymore,
yes,
it remains.
You understand? I think that aspect of self denial in terms of you aligning yourself with the real reality is still playing part. And at the same time, I think CBN needs to come out strongly now in terms of orientation and advocacy.
Okay.
You understand? Having gone to the Supreme Court to say, okay, we are no longer going to to stop the validity of the old currency by this December. Now we are extending it. They need to do more in terms of going to the media houses, using every available platform to preach that gospel to the people, so that people will know that there is no cause for alarm, that there won't be scarcity of the currency for this, especially for this festive period.
Right.
You understand that? That is one thing. Another thing is that there is a perceived excess liquidity in circulation, which is one of the factors that is also affecting the value of naira. And it's also a factor that is pushing inflation. Inflation is when you have too much volume of money in circulation, chasing fewer goods.
Right.
You understand? Now there is that perceived, excess liquidity in circulation, which the government is trying to mop up.
Right.
So there could be an in-house think, like, okay, we need to start mopping this thing. Let's start reducing the amount of currency that we're going
push
to
out.
But before we go into that, I think for us to really help the economy, we don't need to rush into that, really, because a lot of things needs to happen. One, we need to increase the level of investment in our IT infrastructure, especially with the banks. If you look at what happened during the first quarter, fine, we're trying to move into cashless. There is no how we're not going to go into that, because the global economy is going digital.
Right.
You understand? So we need to move along. But be that as it may, we need to do it gradually.
Okay.
Because we haven't seen the reasonable level of investment that we need to make in that IT space for the banking system.
Okay.
What happened during the first quarter was that what they got in terms of people now trying to do, transfer, they got more than what they demanded. You understand? So what happened was that the banking system was generally not prepared.
Okay, the capacity wasn't there at that time.
Fantastic. We don't have the capacity to accommodate the volume of transaction. That was why there was a lot of hanging. When you transfer money, it will take 2-4 weeks
before it drops. Or it reverses.
Or it reverses. Or the money might just miss in transaction.
Right.
You understand? So we need to be very, very careful about how we want to move. You understand? It's a good thing that we need to mop up excess liquidity,
but
to support the value of the naira, and to also to curb inflation.
Right.
But we need to do it in a very systematic way that it will not affect the economy again. It will not create unnecessary panic, and it will not deplete the growth that we have seen in the GDP in the third quarter of this year.
Okay. Talking about dollar scarcity, I like forex, so I'll keep talking about the dollar. Talking about the scarcity of dollars, is it mainly operational or hoarding, or is it an institutional problem?
Now, what determines exchange rate parity is a question of your balance of trade. And we are talking about balance of trade, we are talking about your export and your import. For your local currency to be very, very strong against the foreign currency, your export must be great. You must have enough export to the extent that it must surpass your import. When you have a reasonable, appreciable level of export that is stronger than your import, it is very, very natural that the local currency will rally against the foreign currency. What it means when you are having a strong export is that you are earning more dollar into your economy.
I mean, we have more products to sell
than you are demanding for it.
Okay.
You understand? So, and the more we have, dollar in our economy, it will be very available for whoever that needs it. So there won't be scarcity of it. Once it is not scarce, it won't have that, overbearing value over your local currency.
Right.
You understand? So what do we need to do? If you look at the report that we got from the National Bureau of Statistics for third quarter, we did very well. Export went up. Import was a bit low. We need to sustain that, action. We need to sustain that trend. We need to look at what are those things that actually accounted for the high increase in our export. Largely, it was crude oil. Crude oil takes about 85% of it. Then the non-crude oil takes the other, half of it. So for crude oil, what do we need to do? Make sure that we sustain the pace that we are experiencing in the Niger Delta. Let government intensify action around pipeline surveillance, so as to curb the activity of bunkers. You understand? Then make sure that we continue with our level of output. If we can increase it, better for us. So that at least let's continue hovering between 1.2, 1.3 to 1.5.
Okay, and then not rise above that.
You understand? Crude oil export is OPEC controlled. So we have our quota, but currently we are not producing maximally up to our quota. So if you can sustain action towards moving towards the quota, and eating at that figure and sustain it, we will continue to increase that part. Another thing is that we now need to look at the non-crude oil export out of it. Agricultural produce is another thing that we are exporting very well. So we need to maintain security in the northern region where most of our agricultural produce comes from.
Right.
So there is need for adequate security.
Security.
What happened last few days, the bombing is quite unfortunate, but that should not deter the military
Okay,
for
from doing what they
going
do.
on to carry out the activities they are using. They are
Right.
doing in keeping pace
Okay.
around that
So,
place.
very quickly, what should government, aside what you've just talked about, we also know that whether we like it or not, Nigeria is dollarized. It is a dollarized economy. And people even store up the dollar for when it will either rise or fall for them to do their business. What again can government consolidate on, especially for businesses who also ensure that their clients pay in dollar rather than in Nigeria, when in actual fact they are
within
trading in
Nigeria, yes.
Nigeria?
Okay, you're talking about companies that are accepting dollar
Dollar.
for their
Even,
services.
even I heard
Yes.
some schools do.
Well, that is one
some
thing.
schools,
That is
yeah.
one thing governments needs to take very, very seriously. We need a very bold step. Yes, we are right. There are some schools that accept school fees in dollars.
In dollars, yeah.
Go and check those schools. There won't be schools that are owned by common people. You understand?
But is it right?
Well, we need a stronger political will now on the part of government to be able to tackle that.
Okay.
You understand? Because one thing we have come to terms with in Nigeria is that the first set of people that violate rules are people in high places.
They're the elites.
You understand? So, and what they do is to first of all try to test the resolve of the government itself in terms of its political will to tackle a particular, issue. But now that we are seeing it, and government, honestly speaking, government is seriously concerned about the exchange rate.
Right.
Because it is part of what has accounted for our inflation rate that we are seeing now. It is more of an imported inflation. You understand? So if you are able to bring down the exchange rate parity, definitely inflation will be dropping.
Okay.
You understand? So, but to tackle the issue of companies that
Asking
accept dollar within
dollar
our
in-
economy,
right.
it takes a strong political will.
Okay.
People has to be disciplined. They are running foul. Government has to come out with a clear-cut FX policy. The CBN governor has promised that, and is currently in due consultation with market player, which is very, very good.
Okay.
Call all the market players together, let them know the direction that you want to move in terms of your FX policy.
Right.
Then in terms of businesses that play in our economy and accept dollar, we need to let them know this is Nigeria.
You
If
need
you want
to
to
use the
do business
naira.
here, you have to
It has to be the naira.
play to our rule. So reform with strong political will is essential.
All right. I think there's one more question before we allow you go this morning, and that is, we usually, of course, play around the parallel and the official rate, and you hear the parallel market or it. So how can government ensure that gap, because that was one of the things that Mr. President promised during his inauguration, that it will be at par. Does it look like that's going to happen?
It is very, very possible for it to happen. Like I said, it takes a strong political will. Are you getting it? The first thing that government should do is to come up with the reform. The CBN governor has made mention of it. You shouldn't delay. You understand? Maybe by 1st of January, we want to see it. You understand? Currently, they are engaging the stakeholders. You understand? Engage them, set the rules before them. Then by next year, let's see the implementation. There shouldn't be anything like parallel market. Everybody should be brought into the level playing ground net. What we can do is to see how we can elevate the activity of this parallel market. They are bookies. It is business they are doing,
Right.
but they are not regulated. Let us now, elevate their business in a way that they can now become regulated. You understand? That is it. Government has all the machinery to pick those people that have been behind it.
Okay.
They are Nigerians. They live inside this country. They are not angels. They are not aliens. They are not spirits.
ghosts.
They are human beings. They are not ghosts.
Right.
You understand? So we just need to understand the fact that the responsibility is for every one of us. For Nigeria to be good, for us to defend the value of our currency, is everybody's responsibility. Whatever you are doing in your own little space has an impact on the FX. If you have it, you are hoarding it. You are devaluing your currency.
Okay.
You are punishing your people. You are impoverishing the Nigerian masses. We
All
should
right.
we should all know that.
I have one more question, and it has to do with our cash-based mentality here in Nigeria. How can the government, reduce this cash-based mentality we have or practice we have here in Nigeria? Because everything that and this has to do with this scarcity of cash, and that was why we had a lot of issues then. How can the government, reduce our cash transactions here in Nigeria?
Well, it is true advocacy. The National Orientation Agency has a role to play in that space. You understand? Everybody must be carried along in terms of the global economy is moving towards digital.
Okay.
We are now in the Internet of Things. Hence, we need to move along, or else we'll be left behind. And nobody will come and will come and play in your economy if your economy is not digitalized.
Okay.
If somebody in US cannot do transactions seamlessly with somebody in Nigeria. So what we need to do, that speaks more on financial inclusion. Those people in the rural area, we need to bring them into the financial space. The unbanked people, the banks has to move into the rural area to make sure that they become banked.
Okay.
The underserved people, the banks needs to up their game in terms of their investment in IT infrastructure.
Okay.
The recapitalization agenda of the government will assist in addressing that part, because by the time bank decides to recapitalize, simply means they are going to raise more capital. Which they will now be able to deploy into those IT infrastructure. That will help us to create a seamless transaction.
Okay.
And once people begin to experience that things have become more seamless,
they'll bank more.
Yes,
Okay.
they'll bank more. They will embrace that system.
Right.
But if we are still having bottleneck, that fear that if I go to
And then you go and chop my money.
my money will hang.
Okay.
That fear alone is enough to discourage people to want to embrace the cashless.
All right.
But if we have adequate investment in IT infrastructure, both at the national level, from the various key stakeholders in the financial system, then everything becomes easier and more interesting for
more
people to join
seamless.
in.
All right. Thank you so much, Samuel Showumi, seasoned capital market professional. Thank you so much for coming on the program to enlighten us more about this issue. Thank you again for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
All right. We need to take a quick break. When we return, of course, we'll be taking a look at the LTV Christmas Funfair 2023.